days after that incident?
No, and we have a standard debrief where the backseaters went down to our carrier intel center and briefed what had happened, and that was it.
In the UK, they're a lot more reserved, I think, about the subject, and we haven't seen much talk from the government.
คุณพร้อมหรือยังเราพร้อ
The
มแล้วนะ
congressional
ออก
hearings
เดินทางได้
were just groundbreaking because we've never had anybody ever in history on oath saying these things were wrong, and these are my experiences. In front of Congress with the hand up, passing off their experiences for the world to see live on TV was just incredible.
You would see these objects being at 0.0 Mach, that's zero airspeed. These objects were staying stationary in Category 4 hurricane winds. These same objects will then accelerate to supersonic speeds, 1.1, 1.2 Mach, and they do so in very erratic and unclear behaviors that I don't have an explanation for.
Stories are anecdotes. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, in medical literature, you can write about a case report, which is an anecdote of a single individual story, and that goes into the literature. There are traditional and standard ways to get stories as long as there's data associated. Now, let's talk about the science of it. If you have 100 people who've got the same HRS already, looking at the brain scans, that's data. And so that's something that needs an explanation. How did a person get all of these lesions in their brain and they don't have multiple sclerosis? Is there a commonality that we can observe? And there were a couple of reports in the literature that I found that linked this area of the brain to intuition. And that was interesting because I thought, well, wait a second, intuition in an area of the brain that has to do with body movement? Let's say that you're at a party and you're walking around looking to predict where people are moving, but that moment when somebody does something unexpected, you have to react to it quickly. So those are life and death moments, as it turns out, because let's say you're in a forest and a wolf or a cheetah is jumping out. You need to be able to know to make the intuitively correct move. All the studies that have come since then have said that intuition, whatever it is that you want to call intuition, resides in this part of the brain. I've looked at the data and I say, well, there's something stunning. I'm only here to give you the data. You guys can argue until the cows come home with what it is. I'm just telling you what's there. I'm not coming to any conclusions. All these pilots coming into this and all that so we have to talk about these things and put it in an environment where other people are comfortable and feel safe enough to discuss these things. Yeah, that was one of the things that was striking me about having a class for a couple of years to get to this learning from him, number one, why he was in this class, and why he, some would say, risked his political hobby by creating a uniform where all of these staffers, even if it's secret, for me to out, but he didn't really care. He talked to some of his fellow senators, Senator Stevens, Ross DeSantis, who were Rodney Bush, who were like, almost immediately, oh yeah, we should cover them in this. That's leading to himself to fight. Not that waiting for the airport topic. He didn't come back and he saw this. He didn't look like it's stuff. And then talk about it for a minute.
Senator from Ohio, John Glenn, who's 62, is very much a hero in a country that loves to love a national figure.
John Glenn, it said, is another who was like, we absolutely can't do this. But again, these were not guys who said this publicly because in that era, we just couldn't do that. And now I think the stigma is changing.
We managed to get the attention of the government, both the legislative and the executive branches, and we now have a real prospect within the next 24 months, say, of finding out possibly where the origin of some of these things are, or where some of them might be extraterrestrial.
I less and less and less and less and less because I have that responsibility. So I'm really careful to put it out. And now somebody takes it.
และ800 เมตรตรงมา
There's other things about it that's better.
What is that?
So ATIP was the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification. It was set up in 2007 at the direction of Congress, mainly to look into these reports from military pilots.
ATIP was a very small operation within the Pentagon.
It didn't get very far either. The senior leadership of the Pentagon doesn't want to hear about it. They don't want to spend resources on it.
It didn't have funding in the later years. There was just a group of dedicated people who kept on doing what they were doing before, and they did have some funding. That entity was kind of transformed numerous times. It became the UAP Task Force and a couple of years there, and that was acknowledged by the Office of the Director of Naval Intelligence that that entity existed, and that evolved. It kept changing its name, and then it became this all-domain, what was it, the all-domain,
Advanced.
now, I know what it is, all-domain, what's the R?
The All-Domain Anomalous Resolution Office. It's a horrible name. Acronym is ARROW. Leave it to the Pentagon to come up with something like that.
It's great that it has an easy acronym because some of the previous names were absolutely insane. You couldn't even say them, let alone say an acronym for that.
Fuck the Pentagon with these acronyms. It's called the UFO Office. I mean, come on.
A Pentagon official confirmed this week that the U.S. government is investigating more than 650 potential UFO sightings. The team is examining the 650 cases.
This office is up and running. I'm working hard to make sure it's fully funded.
So clearly, the Pentagon is taking UFOs seriously.
It really is supposed to be the thing that is researching not just sightings made by but also trying to dig into the bureaucracy and figure out what else do we know? What do we know and when do we know it?
This is altogether different, fundamentally different. Now you've got an organization that's out in the open, and they're enjoys very strong support from Congress. It has a very wide mandate and a lot of latitude. It's got more staffed, and you have the support of the intelligence community, have direct access to the Deputy Secretary of Defense and the Director of National Intelligence. Now, all the national security agencies, all the intelligence agencies have to share information on this topic with this Aero office. All the puzzle pieces are now on one table. You can start fitting them together instead of being in different buckets spread all over the place.
I'd first like to thank our witness, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, for testifying here and in today's earlier closed session, and for his long and distinguished career, both in the intelligence community and in the Department of Defense. Dr. Kirkpatrick, you can give your testimony.
It's a privilege to be here today to testify on the defense's efforts to address unidentified anomalous.
Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick is a physicist by training. His last assignment was with Space Command, the intelligence staff. He was very well suited and qualified by his training and background to lead this effort. But it's really good. So it needs to be serious. How he's coming out with things.
This is an issue of government transparency. You can't trust a government that does not trust its people. We're not bringing little green men or flying saucers into the hearing. Sorry to disappoint about half of y'all. We're just going to get to the facts. We're going to uncover the cover-up, and I hope this is just the
This
beginning
young
of
lady
many more
learned that
hearings.
some
More
days
people coming
anything
forward
can
about
smack
this.
you in the face. Usually it's not always going to be a stinky thing.
Yeah.
How do your constituents feel about it?
I get a little ribbing, but I don't give a rip. Mind you, I go out, take my dogs out to go to the bathroom every night in the backyard, and I look at those stars. And literally, the concept of light years that comes into play. I always think, I look at some of those stars, and the light from those stars literally left that star before the time of Christ. So you think in God's vast universe that there could not be something else. And to think also, I mean, it's kind of arrogant on our part to think we're the best that God can do. I mean, come on.
Since 1947, the Pentagon's been lying to us about UFOs, and they've covered this thing up from day one.
You look at Roswell in 1947, the military comes out and says, we've recovered the saucer. And then the next day, they drop that poor colonel out holding a hot air balloon. And there's no way in hell that they would have messed that up. You know, military intelligence is a whole lot like congressional ethics. It really just doesn't exist. What's going to happen is somebody's going to have to walk out with some information that is either on the ground or flying before they commit suicide or shoot themselves in the back of the head.
I have legislation for this year's defense bill to guarantee that Aero, they have access to special access programs, which are typically compartmentalized and highly classified, to make sure they're actually getting to see all the previous data, all the previous information. So all of those SAPs are opened to Dr. Kirkpatrick and Aero team to review, to analyze, to understand. And so hopefully, whatever doors are still closed will be opened in the next year.
And you mean the data stretches back decades and the world.
It's the first time anyone's seen unidentified aerial phenomenon and reported it to the federal government. So we want that data so that can be used as a holistic review of what is the history. All of that should be co-located and reviewed scientifically. The military is not comfortable with bad data, bad facts, or things that they don't know the answer to. And so that's why Senator Rubio and I and others teamed up to begin to look at this much more intensely.
If you look at what's happening now, it's about Navy pilots, like Graves, about the reporting from the cockpit. But these budget questions really focus on the Air Force.
If you look at the Air Force budget, a significant share of it actually isn't theirs. It's the intelligence budget. It's for all the secret programs. But it's sort of budgeted through the Air Force budget. The Air Force complains that, like, you look at the Air Force budget and you think, oh, we get the same as the Army and Navy. We don't, because there's a huge chunk that's the pass-through budget. It's actually not our stuff. It's the CIA drone program and, you know, God knows what else. We do know that the government spends billions every year on secret aircraft, drones. I wonder if they don't want to play in this, not because they're hiding aliens, but if Arrow is picking around and wants to know where's all the SAPs, the special access programs that might shed light on advanced technologies, and you're the Air Force, you don't want to open that up. The SR-71 Blackbird, Cold War spy plane, the F-117 stealth fighter,